we're going into recipe 2. And this is a lemon, garlic, beans with trout recipe. So we're getting like a main meal happening here. And with this protein-rich dish, Jeremy's going to introduce more processed foods. So we talked about unprocessed, minimally processed. Now we're going to talk more about the actual processed food. We're going down that line or trajectory towards ultra processed. And and it can still be part of a healthy diet, right? You want your diet to be mostly unprocessed, minimally processed, but you can have some processed foods. Okay,
Beautiful.
Off to Jeremy.
Okay, so.
Do you want me to move anything out of the way here?
To my little fridge here. No, it's okay.
That's okay.
Sorry.
I feel like I'm crowding his space, right?
Never,
I have
never.
to be so
we gotta fit into the shot.
We have to fit into the shot.
Very important. Okay, so another comfort food for me are dishes with beans. I think beans are a great way to sort of satiate you, right?
Yeah, the fiber satiates you as well as the protein that's in it.
Yeah. I think in terms of comfort foods, a lot of my favorite comfort foods tend to have beans in it. So we're going to make a dish that, a version of this I kind of grew up with, which is greens with the beans. And then we're going to make a couple of changes as well. So pan over here, and this is going to be another one pan, one pot dish, which is we love because less cleanup, right?
Yes.
Yeah, which is important. Yes. So we have our pan, a little bit of olive oil in there. I have my garlic clove, which I'm going to be adding, and in advance I just gave it a little crush, which you can do just kind of gently with the side of your knife, and it just breaks it open. And so for this recipe, I'm actually going to leave it whole. It's going to do its job. It's going to flavor everything. This also gives me a little bit more control over the garlic itself. When it's very finely sliced or minced, you need to be on top of that because it can burn quickly, right? In its whole state, I can push it a little bit further to really amplify that flavor without it burning. And then if I want to take it out after, we can adjust, right?
And that's great because if you have any issues with gas, sometimes the garlic and onion is a problem. So being able to just flavor the oil, take it out is awesome.
Yes. Any other aromatics that you want to add, you can add. Again, fall for me are a lot of these like woody sort of herbs. So your rosemary, your thyme, your sage. So I'm going to actually add a piece of rosemary to this. You can add some thyme, whatever you want, and wash it, but otherwise just directly into the pan. Again, for those at home, sorry, but for those live, you're going to probably start to smell the rosemary as well. And then any other aromatics you want to add, I've got a little bit of chopped onion, so we're going to put that into the pan. Okay, and then just sort of sweat this down and give it a little bit of color, but I don't need to cook it too much. And the next is
I was reading reading the labels. Yeah.
Is our beans. We're using just white kidney beans here. You can use any beans you want, but again, that convenience factor of the canned bean, it's already cooked for you. So just drain, rinse, which I've already done. And then you can go ahead and add it directly to your dish, right? So give it a couple minutes or so. We're teaching a class here. We gotta move it along. So I'm gonna go ahead and add the beans directly in. I'm using a smaller pot here, so at the full pan, you have the space. Stir it through. Can you start to smell the rosemary? Yeah, you smell the rosemary? Okay. I'm going to bring you in a little closer for those at home so you see what we're doing here. And then after the beans go in, we're going to go ahead and add our greens. I'm using kale. You can use any other greens, any other veg that you want at this point. So just washed and really just roughly torn. The big stem in the middle, you do want to remove that. Oh yeah. Well, for those at home, you'll see. Put the kale in there. This I'm using fresh kale, but you can use frozen as well, right? So we use frozen in the first recipe. You can absolutely use frozen greens here. Make it easy for you, make it work for you. Again, just a gentle stir. And then a little bit
I guess you
of
could use
liquid.
Swiss chard too. I'm thinking that's, yeah. Would you use Swiss chard?
Any greens,
Any
yeah.
greens.
Swiss chard would be fantastic as well.
Spinach.
Spinach. And then we're going to add a little bit of liquid. Actually, if you don't mind, let's take this. We use the can. I'm just going to add some water.
Just using the can of the beans to add water.
Yeah, you can use some.
I'll start to describe to you what goes on
There you
behind
go.
the scenes.
So just about a cup of liquid. There's going to be a lot of flavor in here. So water will do the trick. But if you want to use broth, you can use broth as well, right? Thank you. All right, so liquid in. Give it a quick little stir. And then bring this up to a boil, which shouldn't take long. All right, and that rosemary, what's nice, again, because it's whole, I can remove it whenever I want. If I feel like, okay, that rosemary flavor, which can be a little strong, really powerful, I don't want that strong, I can remove it, I can take it out at this point. If I want to keep it in there, to leave it a little bit longer, then you can push it a little further. Okay, so we can see we have our dish boiling here, rumbling. You can hear that. We use all our senses when we cook, right? We use it listening to the food. What's it saying? I often talk to the food when I'm prepping by myself in the kitchen.
Hopefully they don't talk. Well, they do talk back. They're rumbling. Yes.
They definitely
Yes.
talk back. All right, so this is going to be an amazing vegetarian dish on its own. But this is one of my favorite ways to actually prep fish as well. So we're using fish. This is steelhead trout. You can use other types of fish as well. You can use other types of protein as well. And what I love, again, because it's a one-pot dish, I just add it directly on top. So
That is
nestle
so
it in.
cool, isn't it?
And then this is essentially going to steam inside of the top. So
This is a new one for me. I'm impressed. I'm going to have to try this one at home.
a little bit of salt. If you haven't seasoned the fish before, again, you don't need too much. You can adjust seasoning afterwards. A little bit of salt. I'm reducing the heat now to medium low. There we go. And then if you want a little lemon zest, again, any other aromatics you like, put in there. A little lemon zest, lid on top, and it's going to steam, essentially. The fish is going to steam in the broth. So the fish is going to flavor the broth. The vegetables in the broth are going to flavor the fish. It's going to be one happy dish all in one. So cook it just until it flakes apart. Cooking this way shouldn't take long. It should take like 5 minutes. So this from front to end should be a pretty quick dish. And if you're using frozen vegetables, frozen kale, frozen spinach, canned beans, you're using some of these minimally processed.
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 Yeah.
That's why.
Well, yeah, but the spinach would be minimally. Yeah.
There you go.
That's minimally processed. This is a bit more processed.
Right, but they're convenient products. Work for you. This dish should be done in no time. So a couple minutes, few minutes, 5 minutes maybe, till it flakes apart. I'll throw it to you. In the meantime.
Okay. So you saw that I went, oh, yes, a question.
You have to catch the fish.
Yes. Yeah, so you have to catch your fish
Yeah.
in advance.
Yeah, that's true.
Absolutely.
That's true.
Minimum process.
Yes. That's definitely, yeah. Part of the process too. Now's the time. Now's the time, right? This is a
Yes.
perfect time to go fishing.
Go fishing. I tried to see the salmon, but I missed it. Oh, another question here.
Yeah.
Ilona.
If you do you ever defrost the veggies or just?
Great question. So for the vegetables, I wouldn't. I can just throw them directly in because they cook really fast, especially greens. If you want to, like you might save a minute of time, 2 minutes, right? Because those cold frozen vegetables will cool down your pot, but they cook pretty fast. If I wanted to use frozen fish, which you can absolutely use in this case as well, it will save you time if you do defrost it. You can put it in the fridge and let it defrost, and then use it as is, so that it's a little bit quicker. But yeah, great question. Absolutely.
One more.
Yeah, of course.
If I'm doing the seasonal vegetables and I do it myself, do I always have to blanch it before freeze it?
Oh, good question. So if this is for freezing purposes.
Yes.
Yeah. So if you're freezing vegetables, seasonal vegetables, and you're storing them sort of for the winter, blanching it is ideal because what it does is I can't remember the name, there's like an enzyme that continues to ripen that vegetable. So when you blanch it, it sort of stops that enzyme so it doesn't continue to ripen. Even though the freezer will slow it down, it will sort of stop it from continuing to sort of ripen and sort of discolor and oxidize. So that's always a good idea for storage. Also for anything with chlorophyll, so anything that's green, it sort of sets that color, it sort of sets that chlorophyll by blanching. And blanch, like honestly quick, like 30 seconds, if that, boiling water, ice bath, and then dry and then you're ready to. But it's always good. You don't have to, but it just it helps with your veggies. Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Very good questions. Very good questions. Okay, so you saw how we can get easily mixed up with unprocessed, minimally processed. So usually a processed food has required some commercial or industrial processing involved with it. And now it has certain parts of the vegetable or fruit, or in this case, the legumes removed, and it has additives in it. So what you want to do, usually a processed food might have about 2 or 3 ingredients. So the important thing about your processed food is, first of all, being choosy of what you're going to use that's processed and what you're going to use that's minimally processed, right? So we didn't have to use like whatever. I'm trying to think. Canned, yeah. So we're using fresh kale, and we have the fresh frozen fish.
Fresh fish.
Fresh fish.
Yep.
And so then now we have the frozen. I created a new word. We have the cannellini.
We do it all.
I'm always creating new words. Okay. So, but when I look at the package, it says just the beans. I'm reading the French first. Just the white kidney beans. There's water. There is a little bit of salt in this, but it's the third ingredient. It's not the first, so there's not that much in it. You could also probably get it without the salt. And then he drained it before adding it into the dish. So there are ways of incorporating processed foods. And then the other thing is, this is a really important food for a well-balanced plant-based diet, right? So it has excellent protein for you. Probably, let's see here, 1/2 cup, 1/2 cup, 9 grams of protein, 9 grams of fiber. So this is a processed food we want to have in our diet.
Love it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Oh, question, yes.
Yes.
I'm wondering if all canned beans or all canned foods are created equal when we're choosing beans to be pragmatic, or sorry,
Yeah.
are there ways to minimize preservatives, or should we be more selective in terms of style of canning?
Good question. Good question.
You jump in and then I can get.
Yeah. So I'll leave the style for Jeremy, and what I will talk about is more the ingredients and the nutrition facts table. So you can definitely compare to see which has more salt, which doesn't. The nutrition facts table on the back, if you look at the nutrition facts table and look at salt, it gives you the daily value. So the daily value, you want it to be 5% or less, to be a little amount. If it's more than that, then it's too much. So you can take 2 products and compare it that way. Jeremy?
In terms of like the actual ingredient itself, most canned beans are cooked under like high pressure or like high heat. So they're going to be on the softer side. They're all pretty comparable. I mean, you might find a variety that has a little bit more texture than others. In terms of the seasoning itself, so like Daniela mentioned with the salt, some come with salt added, so you don't have to usually add extra seasoning, but you can sort of taste as you go, and then some don't. You can get salt-free ones, so in terms of varietals that way. If you need a bean for the dish to have a little bit more texture, and then the first thing that comes to mind is like falafel. It's, usually, and I've made falafel with canned chickpeas too, but, you're going to get a little bit more texture if you do use dried beans in that case, and then do the soaking process separately. So I would say from can to can, they're pretty similar. In terms of the can itself, I don't know if all of them are BPA free, but I think we're at that point.
We're at that point, yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
in terms
they
of
don't
like the can
say.
itself, you can keep an eye. Some do say, but I
Yeah.
think we're at that point where we're pretty good with the actual canned product. But otherwise from bean to bean, they're texturally, flavor wise, small differences, but they're pretty comparable.
You don't include the can in the recipe.
No, don't include the can. That is a good point. Just the ingredients
Just
in
the ingredients.
in the can. Yes.
Yeah. And I just want to say, I'm not knocking using the actual dried beans. It's just, it takes a bit more time. So if you're short on time and energy, then using the canned beans is great. But you can have both in your pantry, and I do, you do,
Absolutely.
probably. So and it just depends that way.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you don't eat the package from
No,
the dried
Dried beans either. No, not one either. Awesome. Okay, so we're gonna take a little peek.
Ooh,
I
beautiful.
think we're good to go with our dish. And let me do a quick zoom in for those at home. Also, if you're at home watching and you have questions, please feel free to ask. All right, so the salmon looks absolutely beautiful.
Looks beautiful. You guys getting hungry in here?
And you can do a little test to see if it flakes apart, which it does easily, so you know it's good to go. And then what I like to do, and you can take your time plating this up fancily. Fancily? I'm making up words too.
Okay.
What I like to do is get the fish on the plate first.
I don't know. This might all be mine today.
Nothing wrong with that.
Yes, there is. We have an audience, and they're going to want some.
I have a little bit of lemon juice at the end, and I'm adding it at the end just to keep that sort of freshness. I would lose that sort of bright flavor from the lemon juice if I added it during the cooking process. And you can cook this down, like I would cook it down maybe a little bit more, but I'm still happy with this. We're gonna just spoon the beans.
Yeah, see, I
Kale.
would probably put that on the
the
bottom,
bottom.
but that's why you're the chef and know about presentation.
There's no rules here. This
No
is
rules?
just how I like to present it. That was an audible agreement.
Yes, yes. Beautiful.
All right. And then if you have any fresh herbs, go at it with the fresh herbs. But again, this is very much comfort food, so do as you will.
Oh, smells beautiful.
And that is, let's see if we can try this again. Almost
Almost. There it is. Gorgeous.
our salmon, lemon garlic beans. Or
Yep.
trout, lemon garlic
Yep.
beans.
Lemon garlic beans with trout.